When you have an inspired idea, any of us, whether it's to start a business or to start a nonprofit or to do whatever it is, move into a different house, move across country, move to a different country, that desire has been given to us as the receiver. We're in collaboration and partnership all the time.
Welcome to the MINDTRX Podcast with breakthrough ideas to live your best life possible and how to make it happen. I'm Paul Scheele, and today we will be joined by Christy Whitman. Christy Whitman is the messenger of light for the Council, spiritual mentors here to spread the message of quantum energy mastery. Christy and the Council help clients feel more aligned with their divine design of well-being, abundance, success, and loving and supportive relationships. Prior to her work with the Council, Christy was a transformational leader, celebrity coach, and law of attraction expert, as well as the two-time New York Times bestselling author of The Art of Having It All and Taming Your Alpha Bitch. Hello, Christy. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Dr. Paul Scheele, I love you so much. I'm so grateful to be with you. Thank you for asking.
I love having a mutual admiration society right here in our midst. Now, I got a hold of your book, The Desire Factor, which is what I'd like to be talking today about. If I could, just to get us started, I'm wondering, with all the great things you've done as a human potential coach and trainer, teacher, author, speaker, why was the desire factor the next logical step for you?
It was because all my books have come through me, and I don't go to write a book. It's literally like the book writes me. And because so many people struggle with what you were talking about, you kind of felt that contrast come up about wanting desires and having desires and all that. But then I gave different distinctions of how it's not this or that, it's all, right? It's not this or that, it's both and. And so that distinction was important because that's what I struggled with. As I talked about in my very first chapter, there were moments when I created great success and maybe bought a purse to represent the reward for a goal. And so here it was, like one of the stories I talk about in the book that really inspired the book is, many years ago when I was just dating my husband, I went to Italy with my mom and dad, and we ended up going to Venice. And this is the first time for me that I saw all of these beautiful stores like Fendi and Dolce & Gabbana and Dior and Chanel, all just right after. And I thought I died and went to heaven. So I was with my boyfriend at the time, and I'm bebopping in all these different stores, and I'm like, getting all thrilled and excited by it. And we go into Valentino, right? And there's this dress, and where am I ever going to wear a Valentino gown? But I was like, wow, the whole thing. And my husband, boyfriend at the time, pulled me aside and he goes, I don't think I can afford you. And what's funny about it is that I had just started as a full-time coach. I'd left my corporate job. I had been, coaching for many years prior to that, but I had just left to go full-time in my own business. And so at the time, I couldn't afford it either, right? But I told him, I said, you don't have to afford me. I'll afford myself. As a matter of fact, someday we're going to come back here and I'm going to go into any store that I want. And if something tickles my fancy, I'm going to buy it because I can as a symbol of my success. Okay. So years later, after having a lot of success, we went on a Mediterranean cruise. We gifted my mom and dad this incredible cruise along with our two children. So it was the six of us that went on this amazing cruise, and Venice happened to be one of the stops. So I told my husband, okay, I'm going to go into any store I want to. And if I'm not going to buy anything just to buy anything, but if something really strikes me, I want to get it, right? So here I was, we had this day and we went into all these different shops, and there was this beautiful Dolce & Gabbana purse. It was even less expensive than all the other ones. So it wasn't about the money. It was about the symbology of it. And I bought it. we had a wonderful day. I get back on the cruise ship and I start unwrapping my gift or my purse. And I was like, wow, this is a symbol. This is a moment in time where I came back to Venice a totally different person and totally different financial success, so much that I was able to gift, a trip to my mom and dad and the kids and, pay for all that. And I heard my sister in the back of my head as I opened up this purse and I was admiring it. You're so shallow. And I was like, where'd that voice come from? And it was my sister, because I like to get dressed up. And I remember at Easter one year, I had a run in my hose and I was all upset because I didn't look perfect anymore because I had a run in my hose. And without kind of helping me, she was like, don't be so shallow, like as a judgment. So that judgment, because I like some things, whether it's a nice house or a nice car or whatever it may be, there's that little voice in me saying, I can't have the things I desire because I'm shallow. That's shallow. Yeah. When in fact, everything that gets inspired is when you have an inspired idea, any of us, whether it's to take a cruise or to start a business or to start a nonprofit or to do whatever it is, move into a different house, move across country, move to a different country, that desire has been given to us as the receiver. We're in collaboration and partnership all the time. So for me to go, ooh, I get lit up by purses. Someone else, it might be golf balls or golf clubs. It might be vacation spots. When we judge ourselves for being in joy, we're cutting off the very joy that we experience.
That's so cool. And I want to get a little bit more into the upside and downside, especially like at that moment. How did you resolve your sister's voice and what changed then going forward? First, I'd like to read something to you because I've been into goal setting and understanding of the idea of the power of desire for a long time. There was a metaphysician in the 1800s named W. Atkinson. He wrote a series of books called the Power Books. And it's called The Master Formula of Attainment. I'd like to read it to you. This is at the front end of my goal setting workshop. You may have anything you want, provided you know exactly what you want, desire it strongly enough, confidently expect to obtain it, persistently determined to obtain it, and are willing to pay the price of its attainment. And the idea of right action and all of that we'll get to later in our chat today. Essential here is desiring it strongly enough. And this is where Desire Factor really lifts us up to understand desire in another way. I always characterized it as building the banks of a river so that it can channel the force, the life force energy in the direction of what it is we're choosing to create. So deepening our desire and having a strong desire is an essential part of taking action and creating our world. So if you could, is this idea compatible in
Absolutely.
Everything you're thinking about? Okay, so
absolutely.
Talk to me a little bit about why that essential conflict is often there in spiritual practice or spiritual thought, where earthly desires are bad, right?
Well, because we've been told, whether it's from our sister or from, whoever was influencing us, right? A lot of times if we desire something and then we deny our desire, that feels bad. Or if we have tried to attain a desire, say our mom or a dad tried to attain a desire and said, stop being so stop desiring, just be satisfied with what you have, right?
Beautiful, yeah.
Right? We're learning from others that have had their own relationship and maybe disappointments with desires.
Right. And I've often said that the cynic is the brokenhearted idealist. They had an ideal, they wished for it, they desired it, and their hopes were dashed, and therefore they live with a bitter taste in their mouth for years to come and tend then to project it on others.
Yes.
So I don't think that spiritual principle is a bunch of cynics. Why is it that we've come to that place?
Well, that's just a piece of it, right?
Okay.
That's just a third dimensional kind of conditioning piece of it. But the other part is too, we're trained in, say it was an earlier religion. Again, that's part of the programming, it's part of the conditioning, that desires are bad or that desires lead to suffering. And if you really look at it, I desired something, I didn't get it, I suffered because of it. It's interesting, Paul, because I've had 2 books that hit the New York Times, and the Desire Factor, I was like, sure, it's going to hit the New York Times, pull out all the stops, do all the things, because I want as many eyes on it as possible. That's why I wanted this book to create as much impact as possible. At the end of the day, that's why I had that desire, right? And for this book, that desire didn't manifest. There was a lot of other success, #1 on Amazon. It was in USA Today, more books sold. There were more books sold than people that even made the list. It was almost like logically, why didn't this happen? And that for me was a moment, because I put myself out there and I desired this, and I'm writing a book about the desire factor, right? That had a moment of just having me quit it all. Right?
Whoa.
A moment of what I didn't work. I put myself out there. I'm embarrassed. How come this didn't? So sometimes our desires are there a little bit to test our faith even, because that would have been a moment to go, you know what? That was so painful to be disappointed to not attain the desire I wanted. I'm not going to go for what I desire anymore.
That's so interesting. And I love that you kind of came to that at the end of the book as well. Obviously, before you had the story about it not achieving perhaps the level of success you wanted, but the idea that you really used all the principles and thought that you would be able to get on the show and win the $1 million and the TV show and all of that. And the conclusion at the end of all of it was never about that end result. It's not even about the desire. It's about our continued growth and development. So let's come to that as we chat today, because I think this is an important aspect of goal setting and manifesting the life of our dreams. That how do we deal with resilience? How do we deal with setback? How do we deal with disappointment? I've often heard the phrase, Christy, this notion that blessed are those who have no expectations, for they cannot be disappointed.
Yes.
Right? You can't have a disappointment if you didn't expect anything to come of it. And I always say it's an essential thing, as one of your principles, joyful expectancy, this idea of having a positive expectancy, not an expectation of how it's supposed to be delivered.
Right.
But this idea that I do have a positive expectancy for the good that's coming to me. And that's what you noticed also in that story at the end of your book, that in spite of what didn't come up, look at all the benefits you got, all the bonuses, all the growth, all the focus, all the lifting up, all the other side benefits that you got for everything else in your speaking career and your talks and your writing and everything else. So yeah. How do we continue to recognize the good that's coming to us in all things, not just in the desires being fulfilled, but in all things? What's your recommendation for that?
Well, the thing that really helps me and neutralizes me to either good or bad, whatever I define as, up or down, left or right, good or bad, right, is finding that energy of compassion. That compassion energy neutralizes us, and it helps us move the energy of, say, fear, worry, disappointment, or anything that we don't want, because that brings us back into a place of neutrality so that we can focus back on what does bring us pleasure and why we want something in the first place. Because when I got down to, God, why did I want that so much? And why am I so disappointed? it was a feeling of, I got what I wanted. It manifested in that form, but the impact is what I really wanted. I thought in my mind that the impact would be made if it hit the New York Times. So in my limited mind, I'm thinking it's only that form. And
this is the evidence. This would be the evidence, as opposed to a zillion other things, which were actually more relevant evidence that you had gotten what you needed, what you really wanted.
Yes, exactly. At the end of the book and at the end of your desire, when you get it, it's looking back at, wow. So that desire to be in Venice and come back someday, I was holding a purse in my hand, but it really wasn't about the purse. The purse sits in my closet, but forever I will have that expansion of knowing one day when I was in Venice that I didn't have what I wanted, or that I couldn't do what I wanted, but that someday I was going to be able to. And that was that joyful expectation. I joyfully expected to have a moment in Venice with my husband, being able to buy a purse or have a lunch or, whatever it is. And that was the bottom line. It was the fun. It was the joy of it, right? Like the desire to get the book on the New York Times. It was the impact that this book would have on people to understand that, it's not only okay, it's absolutely divinely guided that we have desires. And as long as we're flowing with those desires, we're expanding, we're growing. And even though there might be a setback, that setback is there to also help us expand. Because having that major disappointment and going, wait a minute, I'm disappointed in something that didn't happen in that form, but it's already happening.
Interesting. So we'll have to get some specifics on that one. I'm thinking about, my wife and I were young in our marriage. We had, I think, 1 or 2 kids at the time, living in our first house in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. And my car was not doing well. And I saw that the local Oldsmobile dealer was going to give away a car. And if you register and you do all of this stuff, so I registered and I did what you did at the end of your book when you're visualizing, right? I said, I understand spiritual principle. I understand the power of visualization. So I affirmed it. I was sitting in it. I was driving this car. I even went to the dealership and sat in the car that they were going to give away. It wasn't exactly that car, but it was on the showroom floor.
Yeah.
Right. So I could get in it. And they said, are you interested in buying? No, I'm just visualizing.
I'm going to win this.
No, because I'm going to be here winning, picking this car up, So I was the whole thing, right? Exactly like I was taught back in the 1980s, 70s, how to make this sort of thing happen. And on the day that they announced the winners, my name was called for a consolation prize. So I didn't win the car, but I won like a box of Oldsmobile whiskey glasses, with etched
right
Oldsmobile.
Almost like a car.
Yeah, almost exactly like a car. And, it was, again, one of those kind of things where it's kind of letting the steam out about what that was all about. The thing is, it never deterred me from trying again, from going for next thing. And this would happen with my business too. I would visualize a number of how much revenue would come in over the transom each day. And I would visualize, I imagine, sure enough, we would get it. And then we'd get the next one. Then we get the next one. And there was a year where my business did $100,000. And I thought, what would that be like to do $100,000 in a month? And one day we got $100,000 in a month. And then I thought, what would it be like to do $100,000 in a day? And then we made it. We got $100,000 in a day. $12 million, back in the 90s. This was really something. But it's that same idea. I never got deterred from understanding the power of principle.
Yes.
How do you coach people to stay undeterred and live in the faith that these principles work?
Well, you have to let go of anything you gathered along the way that splits that. So it's kind of like a split energy, right? If you are going towards what you want, and all of your faith and power and focus and all of our, all of our mental capacity and all of our emotional capacity, everything we do energetically goes towards that thing. And if you feel that whatever reason it didn't manifest, or you're disappointed, or you got the consolation prize, whatever you're feeling, you need to process. I'll tell you a quick story, and this is actually after the book. I had decided that my mom and dad are getting up in age, and my dad didn't want to have a house anymore. So I was looking at solutions. He didn't want to go here, didn't want to do that. So I said, what if we sell their house and our house, combine the money? We could do either a guest house or a casita or something like that, right? And so we were looking around. I had my girlfriend who's a real estate agent. She was looking at houses. There was a house on the market for 10 months. No, it hadn't gotten even one offer. And I go to make an offer. Actually, my husband was sitting with my friend writing the offer. And as they were writing the offer, the real estate agent calls and says they got a full price cash offer. They're accepted it. So I'm like, what? I already lived in that house. I knew where my furniture was going to be. I knew which bedroom, which kid was going to have, where's my office was going to be. I lived there already. I had visualized it. A future connection with a future vision already happened. There was an energetic connection. So that was like, what? And it was just total disappointment. And I just sat there and said, okay, I said this or something better. And I let myself cry. I let myself be disappointed. I let myself be frustrated because like, what the, 10 months, no offer, now what? That kind of, what? So I'm like, okay, I'm clearly being protected here. There's this, I said, this or something better. I kid you not, the very next day, I was driving down a road and the council who I channel said, keep driving. And I'm like, okay, let's go. So I continue to drive and I'm driving and they said, make a right up here. Okay, make a right up here, make a left up here. I went into this neighborhood that was the views. Oh my God, I was blown away. They had this beautiful model home. I went into it and I was blown away. And I called and council told me, call up Frederick, have him come meet you. So I call up Frederick, come meet me. And he's like, where are you taking me? Where is this place? So he comes and visits and he goes, wow, it's great. It's beautiful. And I go, I think we should do it. And he's like, are you insane? No, I'm not. I'm being guided. This would be perfect, right? We could build our own casita. The parents could be there, blah, blah, blah. So we did it. We put an offer down. We got it. We built I'm living in it. I'm in the casita. And we're like thrilled. So all of that putting down an offer on that house and feeling so disappointed, if I would have kept that disappointment and would have been like, oh, I'm never going to find anything, and been in that space, I know for a fact, not taking my faith, call this the faith portal, right? The council calls this the third eye. It's like focusing back on, okay, this didn't work out. I release all the emotions and all the attachment of it, right? Because if you're moving towards something, it could be a marriage, if you're moving towards a deal in a business, you feel like, hey, I've got it. You've got an energetic relationship going on with it. When that goes away, the deal falls through, the relationship dissolves, the house isn't available anymore. There's a feeling of loneliness because now you're not connected to what you've already been connecting in the future. And as human beings, we're always connected to the past, the present, and the future, and it's happening all the time. So as soon as I went, okay, let all that energy go, all that disappointment, I said this or something better. I started to visualize what would be maybe better. Yeah. Because then you're reconnecting to now a different future, not where there's a void, where you look out and go, once there was an idea, now there's nothing. Now you're reconnecting to a future self that has and is enjoying what you want.
Beautiful. It's perfect. I love the way that we really do have to go through a process, maybe a little bit like grieving, letting go of something that we had so earnestly desired. And yet, what I was looking for with that Oldsmobile was reliable transportation. It really didn't have anything to do with that car. And in fact, very shortly after that, we got a car that Libby absolutely loved and were great for us, right? So it's this or something even better, right? It's this idea that if one window or one door shuts, keep looking for the next opening, because life is encouraging us to expand, always. Always. And I love the way that you illustrate that. So let's talk about the principles, or 7 in your book, and maybe we could just give a brief description of each one. So we've got principle of alignment, focus, joyful expectancy, having, loving, surrender, and action. And when it comes to the idea of action, there are a couple of interesting nuances that you represent, and I'd love to get into it. So let's just start with alignment. What does that really mean in terms of our desire and our creation of the life we want to live?
I love this. So they all go in order. It's like a padlock. You don't want to get them out of order, because the way the council brought this through is the energy sets itself up and it builds from these different principles. So the first one is alignment. In order to create anything like a house or whatever, you have to have a vision. You have to have an alignment with it, meaning you have to know what you want. If you don't know what you want, there's no alignment. If we're wishy-washy, there's no alignment. It's like if you're going into a restaurant and you're like, I want the chicken. And the waiter or waitress is like, there's 10 different chicken dishes on the menu. Oh, I don't know. Is this one good? You're never going to place the order. So the alignment is really focusing on, what do you want? Why do you want it? And how do you want to feel? And then that immediately goes into the focus, which is the second principle.
So let's talk about feeling, because everybody that I know who have been exquisite manifestors of the life that they choose to live always have a strong felt sense in advance. It's not just the pictures, not just the words written on a piece of paper.
No.
Why is the feeling so important as you understand it?
Well, because the feeling is vibration, and thoughts are vibration, but feelings have a much stronger, it's a stronger thrust towards what it is that we want. So it, like, vibrationally, to feel what you want, that's why the principle of having, as we're getting there, is so essential. It's the feeling that really draws energetically things to us. So, that's why a lot of times someone will say, oh, I have a vision board, and I put a vision board up there, and they look at it, but there's no connection. It's like someone saying, you got to practice your gratitudes, right? So list out 5 things you're grateful for. Okay, watch when I do this. Grateful for my husband. I'm grateful for my dog. I'm grateful for our time here. I'm grateful for my 2 kids. That's 5 things. That didn't do anything. I didn't move. I didn't shift. I just got a little bit of gratitude when I say, ooh, here, right? But if I am saying, okay, I'm going to name one thing I'm grateful for and why. Now, if I think of, I'm grateful for my husband. I'm grateful for him because he always supports me when I'm high, when I'm low. He is that steady stream of just pure love and compassion always. He is there to always give me those beautiful hugs and that beautiful look. He's a most amazing father and 100% a co-parenting person. And I just love to cuddle with the man because he's just so yummy. So, like, these are things that I'm now feeling more gratitude and appreciation instead of just listing out the things I'm grateful for.
It's really an embodiment of whatever it is you're aligning to or attempting to connect to, right? You're really embodying. Okay, cool. So then second principle is focus.
So then we have these mental, our minds, right? And what we focus on now creates our future. It's always the power that's in the now. And as we're focusing, whether we're deliberately doing it or we're doing it by default, if we're letting like the worry and the catastrophic thinking come over us in the now, we create more of those negative feelings projecting into the future. So our focus right here, right now, thinking about what you want, feeling about what you want, thinking about why you'd want it, all these things, this is also, so it's like alignment that immediately goes into focus and keeping your focus there instead of what if it doesn't happen? Or
Okay, good.
Doubting ourselves that we have the ability to do it or any of
And
that.
this brings back a spiritual principle that every moment we're on the threshold of the world coming into being, every moment. And we're either going to be in creation, which is expanding with the universe coming through us into the world that we're creating, or it's going to be in a story. And the story about doubt, and the story about failures, and the times I haven't gotten it before, and when I've been disappointed, right? Yeah. So focus is really about purposefully choosing to align with what it is you're aligning, right?
Yes.
As opposed to all the other. Okay, good. So
absolutely.
After focus, and it's the joyful expectancy.
So you see how this is like, it all goes with each other. Okay, I'm aligned with what I want. I'm focusing on it. And when I'm focusing on it, I'm focused on the joyful expectancy. I'm joyfully expecting. I don't know who, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm expecting it. And I'm expecting that I'm going to be joyful now, thinking about it, and when it comes.
Okay, and essential in there is what we've talked about so far is the idea not how it's coming, but that it is coming.
It already exists in the universe as we know right now.
For sure, yes.
Right?
Yes.
The house that you wanted already existed.
Yes.
The house that I wanted, that I'm living in now, already existed even before it was built. The plan was already there. I was like, hey, that's the exact house we want.
Yeah.
But the land to build it on already existed. Cool. The man, the woman, someone wants, you don't have to wait for someone to get born and then, get to the age that'll take a long. They're already here.
Right.
You wouldn't have the desire if they didn't already exist. That money, that career success, whatever it is, already exists because we have conceived of it.
Yeah. So there's this idea that there is an expectancy without an expectation of the how, the why, the what, or any of that. So, okay. So then principle of having.
So once you expect it, it's a feeling of like you've accepted it, right? You've accepted it that this is what I want. I know it exists. I accept it that it already is here and that I can have it, right?
Okay.
And then you feel the having of it.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. I guess I didn't catch this in the book. It must be there. But the idea of accepting is different than expecting.
Yes.
It's really more the receiving, open, like ask, believe, receive, right? In the law of attraction. So it really is about opening in whatever way, right?
You're receiving, yeah. Accepting it, allowing it by having it. Because what happens is that we have a desire. And let's say that we're vibrating at a lower level, and then we have a desire that's at a higher level. I always love to do it with money, right? There's a very big variance of a vibration of someone that's in debt versus someone that has. Say someone that's in debt $30,000 has a different vibration than someone has $30,000 in the bank. There's a very big different vibrational resonance with that. There's a certain having at one level, and there's a certain having at another level. In order to get from A to B, right, you need to raise your vibration, and you do that by the feeling of having it. So sitting in the I'm in debt and this is what I have will continue to attract more I'm in debt and this is what I have. But if we're feeling our way into the having of this new level of wealth, this new level of success, this new level of prosperity, this new level of love, it doesn't matter what it is. When we get ourselves in that vibrational frequency of it exists, I accept it, this is what I want, I'm going to feel it as if it's now, because it already is. It just hasn't formed itself. The energy is there.
So it's also really at this stage changing whatever narrative that's been operating up until now, the stories I tell myself. So then we've got loving, surrender, and action. So let's go through these.
So I love love, right? And I love the fact that the council brought this through, because when you have something, right? Well, think about, you have something, you're either like, oh, well, like you would almost take it for granted, or you appreciate it, right? You love on it. Like, oh, I have that. I love the feeling of being in that new house. I love the feeling of having that extra money in the bank. I love that. You get into it, and love is the strongest. It's the vibrational ray. And when you get into that, oh, I love the idea of being in a relationship with a person like that, or I love the idea of having my ideal body. Now the story and your focus isn't on why you can't have it, or why you shouldn't have it, or why any of that. You're on the feeling, you're loving it, and you're literally creating it by that energetic love, by that vibration of love.
All right. So that concept of appreciation, whatever we appreciate appreciates, right? We get more of it. So it really can happen with everything. Instead of, God, I really hate this thing in my life, rather than putting hate on it, say, what is it that I'm choosing to create? And what is it that is already in my life that I can appreciate? Practicing that appreciation, practicing that great fullness of my life right now, rather than the debt and the lack and the limitation that I don't want.
Exactly.
So that's really the essence of loving it, right?
It is. It literally is like putting a white light, a bubble of manifestation around what you want.
Perfect. And we can practice it with everything we do have right now and appreciate. So that's great. Okay. So then surrender.
Well, that's the beauty of everything, is that whatever we want exists as energy first. You had said that too. Whatever has formed itself in the physical world, that's why it's not about spirituality or materialism, because anything that's material in this realm is also spiritual, because it wouldn't exist if it didn't.
Nice.
It's got energy. So all energy forms things. So whether it's something that we deem as, oh, that's bad, is it though? Is that bad? Because did you grow from it? Did you learn from it? I'll say, and some people are like, well, who is she to talk? I've had some pretty contrasting things. I had, when I was 28 years old, almost 28, my sister, that was 11 years older than me, committed suicide. And for me now, 25 years later, almost 26 years later, I can look back and go, I see the benefit of that. She was miserable. She was creating a lot of stress for my mom and my dad. She was not in a good place. There was a lot of drama. Would I even be doing the same thing I'm doing now? Would I know what I knew now if she hadn't done that? Because when she did what she did, I opened up to my spiritual practice. I opened up spiritually. I became like I was hungry for the information to not end up like her, to live my life differently. And so I was,
she had a soul contract with you.
Yes.
To come and do that for you.
But I had a choice. I could either look at what she did and use that as an excuse for why I can't live my life. Or I could say, I don't want that. That's the contrast. I want to live life over here.
Beautiful.
And so even from one of the most horrific, detrimental things that ever in my human story happened, I could look at all those things. I went through a divorce. I'm now happily married for 17 years with my second husband. But the first husband, and going through that divorce, I learned so much. I became who I was to then be able to attract my true soulmate, my love of my life, right? So there's things in life that we go through that we might deem as bad, but are they really? That divorce, as someone would say, oh, that's bad. No one in our family gets a divorce. Oh, the D word, that could have been another opportunity to go, I'm a failure. I suck at relationships. I'm bad at love. That would have been an opportunity to do that too. But I went, no, I'm looking at that first marriage as a success because who I became in the process so that I'm able to then have the kind of relationship I have now.
Beautiful. So how is that surrender? That describes surrender in that
So
context.
any negative that we have, right? Any negative about that, and maybe if I had anger at my sister for doing what she did, or I felt sad because she was no longer around, that's what we need to surrender. It's all of the negative energy. It's all of the habitual stories. It's all the conversations that we have in our head that do not feel good, that are limiting, that are from scarcity and lack, that are learned.
You also talk about leaving the baggage behind, right? To not carry that emotional baggage over the next threshold that we're stepping into.
Exactly.
We try to drop some of that. And to the value of your book are the energetic resets, the idea of being able to use the techniques, the energy mastery exercises that you give in each one of your chapters, and the meditation that you give to help embody or integrate the message of that chapter. All of that really is helpful, especially if someone can see where they are in the sequence of getting the tumblers just right to unlock their manifestation. If that number is getting a little stuck, there are some things that you can do right now. And there are people who have really big splits that have happened in their life because of traumas that have occurred and horrific events that they went through. And not everybody is quite ready to say this was the greatest blessing.
Oh, I wasn't ready I wasn't ready at the time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help for you and me to say, oh, this one day you're going to see this a great blessing. No, they've got to do the work.
Yes.
To move through that, to truly surrender. Okay, so then the final principle is action. So say a bit about that.
Yes. Well, action meaning when you are inspired to do something, when you are, get a message or you get the idea or something, most people go, oh, I can't do that. Or, oh, I don't know how to do that. Or,
I'm unworthy.
I'm not worthy to do that, whatever it is, right? That inspired action, when you're so aligned and in your focus and you're joyfully expecting and you're in that principle of having, and you loved it, you surrendered everything that doesn't work, you're a vessel and that information will come through you. And it's like, get up and take action and don't put just 50% into it. Do it with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your might, expecting that this is going to turn out exactly the way you want it or even something better. But taking action with the fullness of who you are, that's the key.
Okay. So now there is one little caveat emptor that you bring in, and in that chapter is about trying too hard. And the other is being able to balance the internal and the external action. So could you say a bit about those two ideas?
Yes. So action isn't just about go, 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 move, move, move.
Yeah.
When you take yourself to go meditate, you're in action to do something, because we as human beings, we are beings, but we also are in action. So even if we are to sit quietly and visualize what we want, we're taking a mental action. We're doing something. So when we are shifting a thought from lack to abundance, we're in action.
Absolutely.
We're doing something. So we're not just sit in, even if you were just going to sit and meditate the rest of your life, you're still doing something. You're meditating. We can't not do something. We're human beings, yes, but we're also developed to do something. Energy moves through us as we do something, and that's how things get created. So, I know there was a lot of, you've been around a lot longer than I have, but even when you saw The Secret come out, it was like all these people were so frustrated because it's like nobody was talking about action. You have to take the action because we're physical human beings. Now, I will say there's been times where I thought of something and something literally dropped on my lap. I had this one time I was about to teach a class. I was living in Montreal. So you know how cold it gets up in your neck of the woods, right? It's chilly in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was about to teach a class at night, and I thought, gosh, I have just a craving for hot chocolate. I don't know where that came from. Don't usually drink hot chocolate, but I had this craving, and I'm like, wow, I'd love some hot chocolate. And I happened to look down. There was a box that had been sitting there for a couple of days. I was given a gift, through the UPS or whatever. So I decided in that moment, before my class started, to open it up. I open it up. It is a mug and hot chocolate, like a whole kit of hot chocolate. I still had to open the box. So I still had to go downstairs, heat up the milk, put in the hot chocolate, stir it, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have to go to the store and go get it. It came to me, but I still had to do something.
Yeah. So every once in a while, universe will just drop it on us. And in many cases, we got to get up and go for it. And oftentimes we don't necessarily know what step 27 is going to be, but we don't need to if we just take one small next step and the step after that. This is something that I think you referred to as momentum.
Yes.
This idea of alignment and momentum. Say a bit about your concept of momentum.
Momentum is getting energy moving. That's my book, Quantum Success, is all about alignment and momentum, because when you are even just thinking about something, you're creating energetic momentum with that thought. And then that thought will create another thought, and that thought will create another thought. And then you'll see evidence of it and go, woo, look, it's true. Then that becomes a belief. It's all momentum. So when there's like this big momentum going towards, say, lack or something that you don't want, it's like the Titanic. It's gonna take some time. You're gonna have to shift the momentum. You're gonna have to shift or pivot in the direction that you do want to go. I'll share this story too, is because it was in the Desire Factor as well. I was so ready to put this book out into the world, and I had two different literary agents that wanted to work with me. One had worked with me on two of my books, and had seen the success of those books. And when I pitched the book to her, it was both of them, independent of each other. They came back with the same exact thing. It was almost robotic. It was really weird, Paul. Both of them said the same thing. I can't represent your book because I'm not going to be able to get you a 6-figure advance. And I went, okay, well, if that happened, it would be great, but I just want to get the book out. For me, a 6-figure advance wasn't the purpose of the book. The purpose of the book is to get the message out. Both of them said that to me repeatedly. I even had a mutual friend of ours, Ariel Ford, who had a friend at a pretty good publishing house that I would have loved to have the book published at. And she said, I can't give him the book for him to review. You got to have your literary agent. I even told both of them, you don't have to do much. He's waiting for my book. I can't do it because I'm the author. All you have to do is give him the book. And if he gets it, which he likes the concept already, then you would get a commission on it. Yeah, but we're not going to get a 6-figure advance. I was like, this is crazy, right? So I'm like, okay, this is where I have to surrender. This book birthed through me. It's through the ways I know in my mind, the way that I, Christy, at this point in my life, know how to get a book published. The doors are closing. So I surrender. I let it go. And that night, it was about 7:30. It was early in the morning. It was like 7:30 in the morning. I woke up. It was on a weekend. And I had the download from the council telling me to contact our friend Ariel Ford. She used to be a literary agent. Maybe she'll do it. She knows the guy. Maybe she'll just represent you for this guy, right? So I email Ariel and I say, hey, what do you think about, representing me as a literary agent just for this book so you could give the book to so-and-so? And she answered me immediately back, no way, Jose. And I was like, okay, so what was that about? I got this directive to do this. And the council says you're creating different momentum rather than being stuck with what you've always done. Even though you got a no from her, you opened a door. The next day, the very next day, I was talking to another one of our mutual friends, and she was asking me, how's books going? And how's everything going? And I said, Kelly, I can't get the book published. I go, I don't, it's weird. I've got this amazing book that could change so many lives, but for whatever reason, the doors aren't opening. So I'm just right now surrendering. And she goes, you got to meet my literary agent. She calls, gets off the phone with me, calls her agent. Her agent says, oh yeah, I know Christy. She just posted something about her dog yesterday, and I commented on her post. I never knew this woman. I remember the post. She said, oh, your dog looks like mine. I remember it, right? So she goes, yeah, I'll represent her. She gets on the phone with me the very next day. She's like, my guides are telling me before I even have to get on the phone with you that I need to represent you. She represented me and is now representing my next 2 books.
Oh, how cool.
So it was the momentum that I created. I opened it. And just even getting those insights and cracking that door creates a new opening.
Super important principle, a spiritual principle. If you think about, okay, here I am, and there's where I want to go. I can see it and I can know it and I know where I am. And it's not necessarily a straight line to it. It could be all kinds of additional side roads, all of which are serving, they're clearing out unconscious negative programming, the boxes that we put ourselves in, the ways we painted ourselves into a particular jail cell, whatever it might be. And by just going ahead and doing any one other thing, we've now gotten out of our comfort zone. We've started to get energy flowing in a new way. And then the universe says, here's how it can happen now. But because you got that initiative going. So I love that. It's a great story. And it's a super one to kind of drop the mic on the stage and say, and there we have it. As a final, perhaps, bon mot or benediction to our listener, if you would say, if you could give any one idea about how to move up to the next level of their life expression, what would you say it is?
I would say whatever you want, whatever you desire, there's a reason you desire it, because you want to feel a certain way. And that energy, that feeling is accessible and available right now. So you don't have to move into the house or get the book done or any of these other things. You can feel what you want now. You could feel the peace, you could feel the love, you could feel the prosperity, the abundance, the success. It's just a practice. It's a momentum like we were talking about. And the more you realize that that energy, just like the nose on your face, already exists, then you can start calibrating with it. You can start connecting with it. You can start living from it. And then all things will be formed because of it.
Beautiful. It's that idea that universe is trying to expand. Your life, if it's not in expansion, is in stagnation. So let's keep the energy flowing. Oh, beautiful stuff. Thank you so much, Christy. It's wonderful to be with you.
Thank you, Paul. I always appreciate our time together.
Peace and blessings. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Christy Whitman. You can learn more about Christy at ChristyWhitman.com. That's ChristyWhitman.com. And now in the second part of the podcast, it's just you and me. I'll tell you how to use the Paraliminals sessions in the MINDTRX app to easily handle obstacles and move toward the success you want, especially as it relates to Christy's message. If you're new to the relaxing Paraliminal audio sessions, they use breakthrough technologies to activate your whole mind in only 20 minutes to help you improve any area of your life. Let's get going. Hello and welcome to this follow-on to my conversation with Christy Whitman and our dialogue about the desire factor. So many resonant ideas. I really love my conversation with her. And in thinking about what paraliminals might go well, basically all of them, and I wanted to try to categorize them in a way that would make it easy for you to select an ideal paraliminal to help you in whatever area you may be working on in your particular situation of life. So as I looked at it, I thought about these topics: alignment and focus, joyful expectancy, having and loving, surrender and action, momentum and manifestation. So let's start with the first one, alignment and focus. Certainly the paraliminal called focus and concentration is going to be great. We'll make sure you are aligned with the goals that are important to you. And then on a daily basis, the paraliminal called power thinking is going to be very helpful, because it's saying, hey, with all the other stuff that has to happen, pick what your priority is and go for it. And when you bring your mind into a single focus, it has power in and of itself. So it's an important idea, especially when, as Christy and I were talking about, it's easy to have 1,000 other priorities going on, and it's too hard because it keeps you deviating instead of really directing the full power and potential of the mind. So those are the ones on alignment and focus. The next area is the concept of joyful expectancy. We talked a lot about expectation versus expectancy, and how do we open up to receive the best, this or something even better. And the two paraliminals I thought would be really helpful is you deserve it, which is one that I did with Lisa Nichols, and another one called joy, which is really about our heart's energy. Joyful expectancy is putting our full passion, our open heart, living open-heartedly, wholeheartedly into what it is we're choosing to create. The third area is having and loving. We talked about appreciation as being an essential aspect of what this topic is all about. It's the feeling nature of your goal as if it were already yours to enjoy right here and right now. And the more you can bring your feeling state into it, the more you align the vibrational energy, the frequency necessary to have it. It's really about receiving. So having and loving could be these two paraliminals. One, happy for no reason, so you're really getting your vibrational energy in the right place. And the other is gratitude, which is recognizing the great fullness of life that is always attempting to be expressing through you as you in this now moment. Gratefulness for what is coming, not just what you already have. And certainly if you do look around and you resonate with things that you have and you appreciate, the more you appreciate, what you appreciate appreciates, right? So appreciation, gratitude, gratefulness, all very, very helpful in getting into this energy that Christy was talking about around having and loving. Then the tough one, I think, is about surrender as well as action. So surrendering is whatever baggage that you might need to be letting go of would be really good for you to drop that at the door and head in and get to where you want to go. The new history generator is a great one, because whatever your history has been up until now, it's not going to define what your future is. Look at how much flexibility you have in the way you represent your memories of the past, that, oh, this situation was that way, but with a new way of looking at it, it was actually an important blessing to me. And now where do I want to go from here? And so the new history generator also projects us into the future that we're choosing to create. And the other paraliminal that I might recommend here is the new action generator, because when it comes to surrender and taking action, it's up to us. We do need to take those next steps forward. And it doesn't matter that we don't know 5 steps away. We just need to take this one next step, because with the principle of energy flowing, it's now flowing in the direction of where we're headed. So Very helpful, the new action generator. And that leads to the other topic about momentum that Christy and I were talking about, momentum and manifestation. So I think two paraliminals are great here. One that I almost always recommend, which is the prosperity paraliminal, because it shows us that we have all the resources we need to receive what it is we're choosing to create. And what we're choosing to create is already manifested. It's already in the world. So align yourself with it, right? Prosperity is a great one for that. The other one is called wealth motivation. Wealth isn't just financial wealth. It could be well-being of any kind, well-being in terms of my career or my relationships or my health or my growth and development. Wealth motivation puts us on track to develop competencies necessary to live the life that we are imagining we could live. So those are the areas, those are the paraliminals, plenty to play with. If you're having difficulty selecting this one, that one, whichever one in whatever area we're referring to, there is for every paraliminal a description of what it is and how to use it most effectively. So check that out in the MINDTRX app. Thanks so much for being here. Looking forward to the next time we can talk again. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me today. I applaud your willingness to maximize your potential. You can easily use the Paraliminal audio sessions in the MINDTRX app to stimulate your non-conscious mind, that is, your inner mind, to reduce any resistance in your life and to propel you toward the success you want. Go to www.mindtrx.com/go. That's www.mindtrx.com/go. These amazing audio tools have helped millions, and I encourage you to bring them into your world today. Be sure to be back for more episodes of the MINDTRX Podcast. You'll find insightful conversations with authors, experts, and thought leaders, all devoted to improving your life's experience. Thank you again for being here on our MINDTRX Podcast.